We need to unpack a bombshell moment from earlier today that's already gone viral. Fox News accidentally exposed the corruption of Donald Trump in his Justice Department and the Trump administration writ large on live TV, even as another Fox News host is publicly lashing out at Trump, his DOJ, and his administration over this corruption. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we actually played this clip earlier today in a previous video, and I said that we would probably come back and revisit it because we need to. This is a moment in which corrupt, indicted Democratic Mayor Eric Adams is sitting on the Fox News studio on Fox and Friends alongside Donald Trump's really cruel border czar, Tom Homan. And Tom Homan gives the game away about a quid pro quo that the Trump administration made with Eric Adams in exchange for dropping the Biden-produced charges against Eric Adams.
If he doesn't come through,
You're up early anyway.
if he doesn't come through, I'll be back in New York City,
Right.
and we won't be sitting on the couch. I'll be in his office, up his butt, saying, "Where the hell is the agreement we came to?" So,
And I want ICE to deliver. And I want ICE to deliver. We're going to.
So they mention an agreement that they came to, which has been the subject of the corruption, the bombshell story. Again, just to remind you, this is Axios. Axios tends to be pretty brief, to the point. Trump's DOJ is at war with its own prosecutors. At least 7 federal prosecutors resigned rather than comply with an order to dismiss corruption charges against New York Mayor Eric Adams, an unprecedented exodus that includes veteran lawyers with deep conservative credentials. This was perhaps the most dramatic battle yet between Trump loyalists taking the reins across Washington and career civil servants attempting to hold the line against alleged overreach. It ended with acting Deputy Attorney General Emil Bove pulling DOJ's remaining public integrity prosecutors into a room and warning them that if one of them didn't agree to file the motion dismissing the charges within an hour, they could all be fired. One prosecutor finally agreed to do so under duress for Reuters. The DOJ declined comment. U.S. Attorney Daniel Sassoon, Trump appointed, by the way, resigned Thursday rather than comply with an order from Bove to drop the corruption charges against Adams. And then that preceded, 6 other critical resignations that we discussed. It was stunning. These corruption charges were brought against Mayor Eric Adams by the Biden administration. Okay, so again, proof that the Biden DOJ is not weaponized, because here they went after a very powerful, very influential mayor of the biggest city in the country who was also a Democrat. And these charges, some people will say, oh, it's because, Eric Adams eventually started to criticize certain aspects of the Biden administration. These investigations began before Eric Adams even became mayor. So it's total bullshit. They began before the criticisms of the Biden administration by Mayor Adams. Anybody telling you that this is Biden going after a critical Democrat is just lying to your face. But in this moment, Fox accidentally exposed Tom Homan and Mayor Eric Adams and the arrangement between them, which has been alleged. That's why Sassoon resigned, because she said, you guys are trying to create a quid pro quo. Her superiors in the Justice Department and Adams' attorneys were trying to create a blatant quid pro quo. And it's been confirmed in the letters. In the letters by Emil Bove, saying that I want you to dismiss these charges in part because Adams can't comply with Trump's immigration policy if Adams is under investigation and facing criminal accountability. That is a quid pro quo. And it's so bad that even other Fox News hosts are publicly calling it out, and Trump. Fox's Andy McCarthy, a conservative attorney who has been pro-Trump, who has been he's opposed basically every investigation into Trump, so he's not some sort of liberal deep state plant. Not that MAGA will care, because that's exactly what they'll call him, because they don't live in reality. But even he is lashing out about this. Fox News legal analyst Andy McCarthy slammed Donald Trump and his underlings over their order to drop the case against New York City Mayor Eric Adams in a pair of columns from the National Review this week. In his first piece, McCarthy wrote, quote, politicized law enforcement is always wrong, and it is not more attractive when it insulates a politician from what appears to be righteous law enforcement than when it targets a politician with what appears to be discriminatory law enforcement. This is the lesson of the Trump Justice Department's dropping of the corruption case against New York City's Democratic Mayor Eric Adams. According to McCarthy, acting Deputy Director acting Deputy Attorney General Emil Bove's order to acting Southern District of New York U.S. Attorney Daniel Sassoon, who was appointed by Trump, was, quote, explicitly political, despite the fact that it's, quote, hilariously claimed to be part of the new DOJ's crusade against politicized prosecutorial decision-making. He was even more befuddled by Bove's claim that the DOJ was, quote, in no way calling into question the integrity and efforts of the prosecutors in the case, including Sassoon. Quote, this is ridiculous. Bove concedes that Maine justice has not assessed the strength of the evidence or the legal theories on which it is based, observed McCarthy. Quote, it is thus impossible for Bondi and Bove to have made a responsible evaluation of whether the case is a political vendetta or to have concluded that Adams was targeted as the memo asserts. And so, of course, this proceeds in that initial, because he wrote 2 articles for the National Review. That first article was before Sassoon, Trump appointed, stepped down. Then afterwards, that forecast proved prescient. Sassoon stepped down on Thursday, writing that Adams' sudden enthusiasm for an immigration crackdown was clearly part of an effort to curry favor with the Trump administration and escape punishment. In a follow-up column, McCarthy lambasted Bove for his handling of the fallout from her resignation. In a letter of his own, Bove informed Sassoon that the prosecutors on the Adams case would be placed on leave and investigated by both Attorney General Pam Bondi and the DOJ's internal investigation team, despite the fact that his previous letter had insisted that he was, quote, in no way calling into question the integrity and efforts of those prosecutors. McCarthy minced no words in his evaluation of Team Trump's motives and action. Quote, given this, how is Bove suddenly in any position to conclude that an investigation he has not objectively and comprehensively assessed is politically motivated? How is he in a position to claim that prosecutors, whose integrity he just got through suggesting was unimpeachable, should now be subject to an internal investigation? And how did Daniel Sassoon violate her oath? It seems to me that she's the one honoring her oath. Unlike Bove, she's looked hard at the case and is convinced that it's not politically motivated, so she refused to affirm Maine Justice's uninformed, patently political conclusion that it was. Nevertheless, she didn't choose to continue pursuing the case in defiance of Maine Justice. She resigned. She didn't insubordinately put Bondi or Bove in a position of having to dismiss her. She did the honorable thing and quit. That puts them in a difficult political position. That this puts them in a difficult political position is not her fault. It's their fault. Quote, in reality, Trump decided it was in his interest to do a political favor for Mayor Adams. His subordinates tried to cloak this raw political gesture in legally palatable raiments, but the rationale offered was incoherent. Now that it's predictably blown up, they blame the people who wouldn't play along. Staggering condemnation from a chief Fox News legal analyst, even as Fox News accidentally further exposes Trump because Tom Homan, Trump's border czar, lays the whole thing out. We have an agreement. And if he doesn't comply by it, I'm going to be back there and be up his butt about, hey, why aren't you complying with the agreement we reached? And again, as Pisco, lawyer, political commentator, co-host of mine on Live and Learn, as he noted in today's previous episode, note that not only did the Trump administration admit that they were dismissing this case in part because they need Adams or want Adams to comply with their immigration policy, they also dismissed or tried to dismiss the case without prejudice, meaning that if Adams didn't play ball, they could resurrect the case against him as leverage. Textbook, open and shut, totally unambiguous. And that's why even pro-Trump Andy McCarthy of Fox News is like, this is total bullshit. And even the Barry Weiss, enlightened centrist, aka Diet MAGA, even her publication is calling this out with an article celebrating Daniel Sassoon, the conservative Trump-appointed U.S. attorney who resigned because she knew that the Trump administration was engaging in corrupt practices. And I just want to read this last part here. What's happening in New York is alarming. If you voted for Donald Trump because you wanted to, quote, end the witch hunts and, quote, restore the rule of law, causes we passionately support, all of this should concern you. And unfortunately, it doesn't for so many people because they don't give a damn. It's not about ending corruption. It is about specific outcomes. It's about owning the libs, crushing the Dems. And the fact that Eric Adams is a Democrat is irrelevant because he was prosecuted by a Democratic administration. Democrats are not perfect, but they are objectively far more likely to hold their own politically accountable, even when it's politically expedient, than the Republicans are. They are just better at that. It's just a fact. The real question is, what will Democratic governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, do? And I just want to play this clip from her recent interview with Rachel Maddow.
Let me ask you about this drama involving Mayor Eric Adams and the corruption charges against him. What we've just seen with the resignation of the U.S. attorney, the Trump-appointed acting U.S. attorney, the removal of line prosecutors on that case, the demand from Maine Justice to drop that case, the refusal from SDNY to do it, then the resignation of Maine Justice officials who had the case dumped on them, and they wouldn't take it either. This is just an incredible drama in terms of federal law enforcement right now. But you are in a very unusual position, a singular position with regard to this case, which is that thanks to the New York State Constitution and New York City law, you are the only person who has the power to effectively fire Mayor Eric Adams and remove him from this position, which might conceivably moot this whole fight. How are you thinking about that now? You could have done it at any point until now, but now, given this crisis that's emerged in federal law enforcement around this case, are you feeling differently about that responsibility?
I don't want our rebirth to be stopped by this. I have to maintain stability and the chaos and do what's right for the city of New York, because as governor, I also represent the city. These are my constituents as well. I'm going to make sure they're protected here. So this just happened. I need some time to process this and figure out the right approach.
But you are consulting with other leaders, consulting with your advisors, and looking anew at this matter,
Of course I am.
Given the recent developments.
Of course I am.
Governor Kathy Hochul of New York.
So there you have it. It seems that it's on the table for Governor Hochul to dismiss Mayor Adams, and she should. She should. He is plainly, facially corrupt, not just from the charges themselves, but this recent debacle only cements the fact that he is corrupt. He is now also a political liability. He's engaging in a corrupt quid pro quo to save his own ass in exchange for political favors for and from the Trump administration. So yeah, she should boot his ass today, as far as I'm concerned. It would send a message that, hey, listen, Democrats, if you engage in corrupt practices, period, you'll be held accountable. And if you engage in corrupt practices to benefit the Trump administration, we will also act ruthlessly. So I hope this is what she does. Adams does not deserve the benefit of the doubt. He's exhausted it. And again, I just want to circle back to Fox News breathed further life into this with their accidental exposure of Trump. And then you have another Fox News host, one of their key legal analysts, railing against this and exposing the corruption there as well. The merits of this are unquestionable. The next question is, what will MAGA do? And my suspicion is that most of MAGA will sweep it under the rug because it's not about principle. It's only ever about owning the libs. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.